While countries around the world have bid farewell to 2016 and welcomed in the new year, the festivities largely went to plan without trouble. Although prior to New Year's Eve, authorities in many European countries were on high alert following the deadly terror attack in Berlin at a Christmas market in mid-December. And the German city of Cologne too is no exception, as last year's celebrations were marred by a string of robberies and sexual assaults. RT's Nikki Aaron reports now from the city.
Every year on New Year's Eve in Cologne, people take to the streets to watch the fireworks. It's become an annual tradition. But this year, it's a very different picture. There's a much smaller crowd. Usually this time brings out thousands of people. There's also a very different atmosphere. If you take a quick look around, there's a very heavy police presence. And this is because authorities want to make sure that everybody tonight remains safe and sound. And that's because this time last year, the New Year's Eve celebrations were marred by allegations of mass sexual assaults. There's more than 10 times the number of police officers on duty tonight that there were compared to last year. I spoke to a few people though, and they said that they're going to be avoiding the celebrations tonight. I spoke to some locals who said that they feel much safer staying away from public places like this. I'm now in the main square of the city, just opposite the Cologne Cathedral. This is where people would usually come to watch the fireworks. Usually thousands of people would be here. As you can see, it's just a scattering of a few. 2016 has been a difficult year for Germany. The country has seen multiple terror attacks, and it's hoped that the new year will bring new hope and a brighter future for Germany. This is Nikki Aaron for RT in Cologne.
Meanwhile, in Austria, police handed out thousands of pocket alarms on New Year's Eve as authorities there heightened security measures. Police said that the measures were aimed at preventing a repeat of what happened in Cologne in 2015. Women can use the gadgets to signal any potential dangerous situations. Now, Syria celebrated its first relatively peaceful New Year since 2011 after the recent ceasefire brokered by Turkey, Russia and Iran. According to this deal, Turkey and Russia are monitoring and assisting the process and are acting as guarantors. Russia's defence minister said that even 7 key opposition groups are party to the truce, amounting to some 62,000 rebel fighters. Groups that do not abide by the ceasefire will be considered terrorists. The document also calls for the rapid and safe delivery of humanitarian aid throughout the country. Well, the US was not involved in the ceasefire agreement, but Russia's ambassador to the UN does expect them to be involved in future peace talks.
Yes, we do expect that the Trump administration, after it comes into the White House on January 20, will be an important participant.
The main sticking point between the US and Russia in Syria is the debate over which groups are to be considered terrorists. RT's Gazdiev has more on that.
John Kerry and Sergei Lavrov. For a while there, they were inseparable, visiting each other, closeting themselves away in Geneva for hours, for days at a time, trying to solve the world's problems. They had their moments, but when it came to Syria, it was abject failure. Whether it was arguing and blaming each other about an aid convoy attack, the reasons for a ceasefire failure, or the United States accidentally bombing Syrian troops, they just couldn't find a common position, common ground. And eventually, Russia had enough.
As for Jabhat al-Nusra, the US not only doesn't touch it, but during all our discussions, they tried in every way to formulate agreements so al-Nusra was not attacked. Of course, we can't accept that, because al-Nusra is a terrorist organization, as admitted by the United Nations, the US, Russia and other countries.
Time to switch things around, mix things up. Enter the Troika, not the likeliest of A-teams, Iran, Russia and Turkey, but certainly one that gets things done. The Aleppo evacuation, thousands of lives saved, the city spared devastation. The ceasefire effort in Syria, the biggest ceasefire, theoretically, that the civil war has ever seen. Now they've got plans for a peace settlement, even a roadmap. They're now doing what the United States promised to do for years and finally separate the radical jihadists from the moderate opposition.
During the last 2 months, we spent most of the time developing maps to show where the main opposition groups could be divided, information we had earlier requested from the United States.
The United States just couldn't do it. They blamed Russia, they blamed Assad, they blamed the conditions. The Friends of Syria failed. The ISSG, International Syria Support Group, failed. The talks in Geneva failed. The Troika, the new Syrian coalition, is getting things done. They now have plans to expand, to grow, inviting a whole host of new nations, and noticeably absent among them is the United States, and that must not sit well with Washington.
The former Mayor of London, Ken Livingstone, explained why he's not surprised the US was sidelined in the Syrian ceasefire agreement.
I'm not surprised, because when you had the Arab uprising, the Arab Spring, and the various groups rose up against Assad, America gave support. It wanted Assad overthrown, because Assad has never been an ally of the West. He's been neutral, he's been often seen as pro-Russian, and they threw a lot of resources, I think, behind those terrorist groups trying to overthrow Assad. The trouble is that, of course, created a space for Islamic fundamentalist groups, and I think what's really encouraging about the deal that's been done is that they have been excluded, and all the other groups that were trying to overthrow Assad have recognised they're not going to do that, and it's better that they work with Assad and his regime to eliminate those Islamic terrorists.
Well, Carla Ortiz is a filmmaker who spent 8 months in Syria documenting the people caught up in the conflict. She also witnessed the evacuation of eastern Aleppo. Here's a clip from her upcoming documentary.
We are going to Jebel Bedroom because it's the place where they are liberating people, and they're letting them pass and free from the east side of Aleppo to the west side of Aleppo. This is from which front? Al-Nusra front?
Carla told us about her experiences in Syria.
On the east side of Aleppo, I was able to get close to the ones that were liberated little by little and advance there. It's an absolute devastation. You especially to talk to the people, and their point of view of things are completely different because they've been living in the eye of the conflict. To my big surprise, because you are hearing this outside of Aleppo, but when you talk to somebody who just came out of East Aleppo, and they tell you most terrorists are foreigners, they're not even Syrians. They basically talk about how they have no food, no access to medicine, and how they were deprived to go to school, and how sometimes they had to really lock the children, and how they would use sometimes some of the children in order to blackmail some of the families to stay quiet or do something. Their life was really inhuman. The way they talk to you and the amount of hope they have now and their happiness when they were crossing the border, it was indescribable. Their eyes and how they are praying, how they are thanking God, and they are thanking the Syrian army, and they have nothing to do with politics. You know, they're not even talking about supporting one side or another side. They're just very happy to be free of death.
Bombs are everywhere. People are running. They don't know where, just running.
We are here living a genocide, literally.
People are executed. It's as simple as that.
Look, I mean, it's very hard for me because I don't want to discredit people and I don't want to say that they are lying, but the point is that when I was in East Aleppo and I was in the cities covered by East Aleppo that were just liberated, there is no way, there's no internet. I couldn't even tell my family I made it alive. I mean, you hardly had WhatsApp. It's impossible to upload a video. You know, it would take me to upload a video at the hotel where it's safe and I have internet more than 2 hours. For me, it's like, how in the middle of all this you were able to have internet and send it when I have a phone that has international coverage from Europe and the United States, and I wasn't able to send a WhatsApp to my family.
You're watching RT International. Still ahead for you this hour. We look at the timing of America's latest sanctions on Russia and the expulsion of 35 diplomats. That story and more in a couple of minutes.